5 years after the Void Swarm War ended, the galaxy had settled into what historians would later call the Age of Creative Chaos. The change was visible everywhere, from architecture that defied physics to art that challenged the viewer's understanding of reality. High Counselor Methys stood in the Grand Hall of the new Galactic Council Station. The building itself was a testament to human engineering, a structure that somehow contained more internal space than its external dimensions should allow. When asked to explain how this was possible, the human architects had simply shrugged and said, "It works, so it must be right." The council chamber buzzed with the usual mixture of languages, but now there was something new in the air. Laughter. Actual, genuine amusement from species that had spent millennia being serious about everything. "The human representative has arrived," announced the secretary, a young Sketh who had learned to speak with what humans called attitude. Ambassador Kang Wu entered the chamber with his usual calm dignity. He now held the official title of Chaos Coordinator, though he preferred to be called simply Ambassador. His hair had grown gray during the war, but his eyes still held that quiet confidence that had once terrified and now comforted the galactic community. "Ambassador Kang Wu," Methys greeted him formally. "We are pleased to welcome you to today's session." "Thank you, High Counselor," Kang Wu replied, taking his seat at what was now permanently designated as the Human Advisory position. It was not quite full membership, but it carried more influence than most full members enjoyed. "The first item on our agenda," Methys continued, "concerns the request from the Andorian Collective to join our peaceful community of worlds." Around the chamber, various alien representatives began to speak in measured, diplomatic tones. The Androians had a long history of technological achievement and social stability. Their application was thorough and well documented. By all traditional measures, they would be ideal members of the galactic community. But the galaxy had learned to look beyond traditional measures. "What do we know of their military capabilities?" asked Commander Thesk, who now served as the Council's Director of Creative Defense. "They have standard energy weapons, defensive shields, and tactical doctrine consistent with Level 7 civilizations," replied the intelligence briefer. "And their approach to problem-solving? Methodical, logical, and systematic." A murmur went around the chamber. These were no longer considered purely positive traits. "Have they ever attempted anything impossible?" asked the luminary representative. "Their entire history shows a preference for achievable goals and realistic expectations." Another murmur, this one less approving. Ambassador Kang Wu listened to the discussion with interest but did not immediately contribute. The gallery above the main floor was filled with observers from across the galaxy, including many species that had learned to appreciate human unpredictability. In the front row sat Captain Obin Na, now retired from active military service but serving as an instructor at the new Galactic Military Academy. Her course, Applied Impossibility, was the most popular class in the institution's history. Beside her sat Dr. Cho Min, whose research into constructive chaos theory had revolutionized everything from medicine to engineering. His latest project involved teaching artificial intelligence systems how to have creative breakthroughs by making deliberate mistakes. Ambassador Kang Wu, High Counselor Methys said eventually, "Do you have any thoughts on the Andorian application?" Kang Wu stood slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew that when the human ambassador spoke, reality was about to become more interesting. "The Andorians seem like good people," Kang Wu said carefully. "Their application is complete, their intentions appear peaceful, and their civilization shows all the signs of stability and wisdom that this council traditionally values." Several representatives nodded approvingly. "However," Kang Wu continued, and the chamber held its breath, "I am concerned about their lack of beautiful failures." "Beautiful failures?" Methys asked. "Every species that has thrived in this new galaxy has learned to fail creatively. The Vorthak now build monuments to their most spectacular architectural mistakes. The Sketh write poetry about military disasters that became accidental victories. The Luminari have developed an entire art form based on producing the wrong colors at the right time. This was true. Since the war, the galaxy had discovered that failure, when approached with the right attitude, could be more valuable than success. But the Andorians, Kang Wu continued, have avoided failure so successfully that they have never learned what it can teach them. And you believe this is a problem? Asked the Kalish representative. I believe it is a limitation, Kang Wu replied diplomatically. The discussion continued for another hour, but the outcome was inevitable. The Andorian application was approved, but with conditions. They would be paired with a human mentor species and required to attend what had become known as Chaos Appreciation Seminars. As the session concluded, an urgent communication arrived that made everyone in the chamber sit up straighter. New long-range sensors had detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of known space. The patterns were unfamiliar and potentially hostile. Should we deploy reconnaissance vessels to investigate? Methus asked. Our standing protocols recommend a cautious approach, advised the military coordinator. Standard sensor sweeps followed by diplomatic contact attempts if the signatures proved to be artificial. Around the chamber, representatives nodded in agreement. It was a sensible, measured response that would minimize risk while gathering necessary information. Ambassador Kang Wu listened to the discussion with growing amusement. Finally, he stood and walked to the small table where he kept his personal belongings during council sessions. His simple ceramic cup sat there, filled with traditional Korean tea that had somehow become the unofficial beverage of galactic diplomacy. The chamber watched in fascination as Kang Wu lifted the cup, studied it for a moment, and then set it down with deliberate care. High Counselor, he said quietly, hold my drink. The reaction was immediate and galaxy-wide. Emergency alert systems activated automatically. Civilian shipping began moving to safer areas without being ordered. Military units started spontaneous readiness drills. Scientists prepared their instruments for the recording of impossible events. In the gallery, Captain Oh Bin Na grinned and whispered to Dr. Cho Min, "Here we go again." "What are you planning, Ambassador?" Methus asked, though his tone suggested he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. "We are going to throw them a party," Kang Wu replied. "A party? A welcome party. We are going to assume they are friendly, prepare a celebration that showcases the best of galactic culture, and invite them to join us. And if they are hostile?" Kang Wu smiled that quiet, confident smile that had become famous across the galaxy. "Then, we will throw them a very creative party." Within hours, the greatest mobilization of resources in galactic history was underway. But instead of weapons and shields, the ships carried musicians and artists, chefs and storytellers, engineers with impossible blueprints and architects with paradoxical plans. Admiral Yoon Sora, now serving as Director of Creative First Contact, commanded the welcome fleet from her new flagship, the UES Open Arms. The ship was designed to look as non-threatening as possible, while being capable of acts of beautiful destruction that would make hostile aliens reconsider their life choices. "All vessels report ready," came the communications from across the fleet. "We have prepared presentations in 17 different art forms, banquets featuring cuisine from 43 species, and entertainment that ranges from traditional folk dancing to competitive physics." "And if they shoot at us?" asked Admiral Yoon Sora's tactical officer. "Then we will dance more creatively," the Admiral replied. On Nexus Prime, the galactic community watched the preparations with a mixture of excitement and terror that had become the standard emotional response to human initiatives. "They are going to make friends with unknown aliens by throwing a party in space," the luminary representative flashed in colors that roughly translated to, "This is simultaneously wonderful and terrifying. It will either be the greatest diplomatic success in galactic history," Commander Thesk observed, "or the most spectacular failure ever recorded." "With humans," High Counselor Methus replied, "those are often the same thing." As the welcome fleet approached the edge of known space, the mysterious energy signatures began to change. They were definitely artificial, definitely powerful, and definitely aware of the approaching celebration. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Yoon Sora of the Galactic Welcome Committee. The Admiral broadcast. "We come in peace, friendship, and with really excellent food. Would you like to join us for a party?" The response, when it came, was in a language that no galactic database recognized, but the tone was unmistakably curious. "I think they said, yes," reported the communications officer. "Excellent," Admiral Yoon Sora replied. "Signal all ships. Let the creative diplomacy begin." And across the galaxy, every species simultaneously experienced the same thought. The humans are at it again. But this time, instead of fear, they felt anticipation. Because when humans said, "Hold my drink," miracles happened, and the galaxy had learned to love miracles. Even the war reached its turning point when long-range sensors detected something that made even the humans pause. The Void Swarm Queen was coming. Her ship emerged from the dark between galaxies like a nightmare given form. It was the size of a small moon, covered in organic architecture that pulsed with malevolent life. Energy readings showed power levels that could crack planets. Her psychic presence was so strong that sensitive species felt her approaching from 3-star systems away. "She coordinates everything," Dr. Cho-min reported from his analysis station aboard the UES Impossibility. "Every swarm creature in the galaxy is connected to her consciousness. Cut the connection and they all become individuals." Admiral Yoon Sora studied the tactical display from the bridge of humanity's newest and strangest warship. The Impossibility had been built using principles that violated several laws of physics. Her engines ran on controlled paradoxes. Her weapons fired concentrated irony. Her hull was made from crystallized stubbornness. "How do we get close enough? To her?" Admiral Yoon Sora asked. "We do not," replied Captain Shin Yu-jin, commander of the Impossibility's escort squadron. "We bring her to us." The plan that emerged from the human strategy sessions would have been rejected by any sane military organization, as the desperate fantasy of minds driven to madness by war. Fortunately, the human military had never claimed to be sane. "We are going to make her angry," Captain Shin Yu-jin explained to the combined fleet commanders. "Not just annoyed or frustrated. We are going to make her so furious that she loses all tactical sense and comes after us personally." "How?" asked Commander Nam Su. "We are going to insult her." The alien observers, monitoring human communications, listened to this exchange with growing disbelief. The luminary representative flashed colors that had no translation but roughly meant, "They cannot be serious." But they were serious, deadly serious. The operation began with what humans called aggressive rudeness. Every human ship in the galaxy began broadcasting messages directly at the Swarm Queen. Not threats or challenges, but simple, devastating insults. "Your bioarchitecture is ugly and poorly designed," Captain Obinna transmitted. "My grandmother could build better spaceships, and she has been dead for 20 years. Your hive mind shows clear signs of inefficient resource allocation," added Commander Park Ye-jin. "Have you considered taking a basic management course? Your invasion strategy lacks imagination," Captain Lee Tae contributed. "Consuming everything you encounter is not a plan, it is just bad manners." The psychological effect on a being accustomed to absolute respect from her servants was immediate and devastating. The Swarm Queen's psychic screams of rage could be heard across half the galaxy. Her massive ship began moving toward the human fleet at maximum speed, abandoning all tactical considerations in favor of personal vengeance. "Phase 1 successful," Admiral Yoon Sora announced. "She is coming straight for us." "What is Phase 2? Asked the Vorthak general who was observing the human command center. "We make her even angrier." As the Swarm Queen's ship approached the human battle line, it became clear that conventional weapons would be useless. Her biovessel absorbed energy attacks and adapted to kinetic weapons within seconds. Fortunately, humans had long ago abandoned conventional thinking. "Deploy the chaos pattern," Admiral Yoon Sora ordered. What followed was the most beautiful and terrifying display of coordinated insanity the galaxy had ever witnessed. The human fleet began moving in a three-dimensional mandala pattern that had been designed by a team of mathematicians, artists, and philosophers working together. Each ship followed a path that was individually meaningless, but collectively formed. a pattern of such profound complexity that it bordered on art. To observers, it looked like a deadly dance performed by machines of war. To the Swarm Queen's prediction algorithms, it was incomprehensible. "She is trying to calculate our next moves," reported the sensor operator aboard the Impossibility. "Her biocomputers are overheating from the processing load." "Good," Admiral Yoon Sora replied. "Captain Shin Yu-jin, execute the human shield." Maneuver. The human shield maneuver was not what it sounded like. Instead of using humans as protection, it used the concept of human unpredictability as a weapon. Captain Shin Yu-jin's squadron began flying in patterns so chaotic, so random, so utterly without tactical purpose that the Swarm Queen's mind began to fracture from trying to understand them. "She is broadcasting confusion," Dr. Cho Min reported, excitedly. "Her psychic network is experiencing cascade failures as she tries to process our behavior patterns." The breakthrough came when Sergeant Kim Do, now commanding a small assault craft, volunteered for the mission that would define the War. His job was simple in concept, impossible in execution. Fly directly into the Swarm Queen's ship and broadcast every piece of human culture ever created. "All of it?" Admiral Yoon Sora asked. "Every song, every story, every poem, every joke, every children's rhyme, every philosophical treatise, every romantic letter ever written," Kim Do confirmed. "We are going to show her what chaos looks like when it creates instead of destroys." Kim Do's ship, the Pandora's Box, was specially equipped with the largest cultural database ever assembled. Terabytes of human creativity, compressed into a transmission array that could broadcast directly into a hive mind's processing center. The flight into the Swarm Queen's ship was a journey through biological nightmares. Corridors pulsed with alien life. Walls moved and breathed and tried to digest his ship. Defense systems that operated on principles beyond conventional understanding tracked his approach. But Kim Do had been trained by humans, and humans had long ago learned that the best way through an impossible situation was to ignore the impossibility. "This is Sergeant Kim Do to all ships," he broadcast as his vessel penetrated deeper into the bioship, beginning cultural bombardment in 3, 2, 1. The transmission that followed would be studied by xenopsychologists for centuries to come. Every form of human artistic expression poured into the Swarm Queen's consciousness simultaneously. Love songs and war poetry, children's lullabies and philosophical debates, comedy and tragedy and everything in between. The effect on a mind that had known only perfect order and predictable patterns was devastating. Human creativity was not just chaotic. It was beautifully chaotic. It was chaos that built cathedrals and wrote symphonies and painted pictures of impossible dreams. The Swarm Queen's psychic scream shattered crystal formations on 3 nearby planets. Her bioship began to convulse as her mind struggled to process concepts like irony and sarcasm and artistic license. "She is overloading," Dr. Cho Min reported with scientific excitement. "Her consciousness cannot handle the paradox of ordered chaos." "What paradox?" Admiral Yoon Sora asked. "Humans create beautiful things by breaking rules. You make art by violating principles. You write music by ignoring mathematical precision. Her mind was designed to understand order, but human creativity is organized disorder." The Swarm Queen's death throes sent psychic shockwaves across the galaxy. Every swarm creature connected to her network suddenly found itself alone, individual and confused. Without her guiding consciousness, they began to behave like the independent beings they had never been allowed to be. Some fled back to intergalactic space. Others simply stopped moving and began to contemplate existence. A surprising number asked for asylum in various galactic civilizations. "The war is over," Admiral Yoon Sora announced to the combined fleets. "The Void Swarm is no longer a collective threat." On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council watched the final battle recordings in stunned silence. High Counselor Methus played the sequence of Kim Do's cultural bombardment 3 times before he could speak. "They weaponized art," he said quietly. "They weaponized creativity itself," Commander Theska corrected. "They took everything that makes them unpredictable and used it to break an enemy that thrived on predictability." The luminary representative flashed colors of deep respect. "We have witnessed something unprecedented. A species that wins wars by being more beautifully chaotic than their enemies can comprehend." As the celebrations began across the galaxy, a new understanding emerged. The humans had not just won a war. They had proven that sometimes the best response to an impossible problem was an impossible solution. And when humans said, "Hold my drink," they meant, "Watch us do the impossible." The galaxy would never underestimate human creativity again. 6 months into the war, the galaxy had learned to read the signs. When human reinforcements arrived in a system, civilian traffic immediately began moving in the opposite direction. Not because of the void swarm, because of what the humans might do to stop them. Colonel Yang Ho-jin stood before a conference room full of alien military officers, all of whom looked like they would rather be anywhere else. His presentation was titled, "Applied Tactical Insanity: A Human Approach to Warfare." "The key to understanding human military doctrine," Yang Ho-jin began, "is to stop trying to understand it." The Vorthak General Korath shifted uncomfortably in his stone chair. "Colonel, surely there must be some underlying logic to your strategies." "There is," Yang Ho-jin agreed. "The logic is that logic does not work against an enemy that adapts to logical responses." He activated the holographic display, showing a recording from the Battle of Proxima Station. On screen, a human soldier named Private Bei Sumi was dancing. "This is Private Bei Sumi, holding off an entire swarm incursion by herself," Yang Ho-jin explained. "She is playing music at maximum volume, dancing to the rhythm, and firing her weapon in time with the beat." The alien officers watched in fascination and horror as the swarm creatures seemed to freeze in confusion. Their movements became erratic, uncoordinated. Several actually crashed into each other. "Why does this work?" asked Commander Thesk. "Because the swarm hive mind is trying to predict her next move based on the pattern of her previous actions," Yang Ho-jin explained. "But she is not following a tactical pattern, she is following a musical one. The hive mind keeps predicting military responses and getting dance moves instead." The luminary representative flashed rapid patterns of confused colors. "But this violates every principle of combat effectiveness." "Yes," Yang Ho-jin said cheerfully. "That is what makes it effective." He switched to another recording. This one showed Captain Ryu Min-ho leading a boarding party onto a swarm bioship. Instead of moving tactically through the corridors, they were playing a children's game called Follow the Leader. "The boarding party is moving in single file," Yang Ho-jin narrated. "Each person exactly mimics the movements of the person in front of them. To outside observers, it looks ridiculous. To the swarm defenders, it looks like one person with perfect coordination between multiple bodies." "What happened to the defenders?" General Korath asked. "They became so confused trying to target what appeared to be a single entity that they started attacking each other instead of the humans." The presentation continued for 2 hours. Yang Ho-jin showed them the reverse psychology gambit, where human ships pretended to retreat in panic while actually leading swarm forces into carefully prepared ambushes. He demonstrated the random walk strategy, where human fleets moved according to dice rolls rather than tactical planning. "But surely," protested the college representative, "some of these tactics must fail." "About 30% of them fail, catastrophically," Yang Ho-jin admitted. "The other 70% work so well that it more than makes up for the failures." "And your soldiers accept these odds?" "Our soldiers volunteer for missions with worse odds. Yesterday we had 200 applicants for a mission with a 5% survival rate." The alien officers exchanged glances. This level of calculated recklessness was beyond their understanding. Meanwhile, on the bridge of her flagship, Commander Park Ye-jin was putting the finishing touches on humanity's master plan. The brilliant strategist had spent months studying swarm behavior patterns, and she had reached a conclusion that would have gotten her thrown out of any other military academy in the galaxy. "We cannot destroy them," she explained to Admiral Yoon Sora over a secure channel. "They adapt too quickly to direct attacks, but we can make them sick." "Sick? Think of it like food poisoning," Park Ye-jin said. "If you eat something that disagrees with you, your body rejects it. The swarm feeds on organized information and energy. What if we gave them information that was organized but wrong? Energy that was structured but chaotic? Admiral Yoon So-ra smiled. She was beginning to understand. You want to give them indigestion? Exactly. Dr. Cho Min has developed a virus that does not attack their biotechnology directly. Instead, it introduces random errors into their data processing. Their ships will still function, but they will not function correctly. The virus was elegant in its simplicity. It carried a single human concept, the idea that sometimes doing the wrong thing is exactly right. When introduced into the swarm's hive mind network, it would cause individual creatures to start making independent decisions. The swarm queen maintains control through perfect predictability, Park Ye-jin explained. Every creature knows exactly what every other creature will do in any given situation. But if some creatures start acting unpredictably, the whole system breaks down. Admiral Yoon So-ra finished. The whole system breaks down. The first test came at the mining colony of New Shanghai. Captain Ryu Min-ho volunteered to carry the virus into direct contact with swarm forces. His mission was simple in concept. Get close enough to a swarm bioship to introduce the virus into its systems, then escape before the chaos began. The execution, naturally, was typically human in its apparent insanity. I am going to let them capture me, Ryu Min-ho explained to his crew. Sir, respectfully, that is suicide, his first officer replied. Only if they successfully assimilate me, Ryu Min-ho said. But what if I am too stubborn to be assimilated? The plan relied on a fundamental misunderstanding the swarm had about human psychology. They assumed that all intelligent beings would submit to the hive mind when faced with the alternative of death. They had never encountered a species that preferred death to conformity. Ryu Min-ho allowed his ship to be captured and boarded. When the swarm creatures attempted to connect him to their network, they found something unprecedented, a mind that simply refused to join. I do not want to be part of your collective, Ryu Min-ho told the hive mind directly. I like being individual. I like making my own mistakes. I like being wrong sometimes. The concept was so alien to the swarm that their local hive nodes began to malfunction. In their confusion, they failed to notice that Ryu Min-ho's neural implants were broadcasting Dr. Cho Min's virus into their network. The virus spread through the local swarm forces like wildfire. Suddenly, individual creatures began to question orders. Some decided they wanted to explore different parts of the colony. Others became curious about human music and started listening to the colony's radio broadcasts instead of following attack patterns. This is Captain Ryu Min-ho to all ships. He broadcast as he escaped from the increasingly chaotic bioship. Virus deployment successful. The swarm forces are arguing with themselves about the best way to destroy the colony. Half of them want to see if we taste good first. The success at New Shanghai was followed by similar victories across the war zone. Human teams infiltrated swarm forces and introduced chaos into their perfect order. Not the chaos of destruction, but the chaos of free will. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council watched these developments with a mixture of awe and terror. The humans were not just fighting the swarm, they were converting them. This is unprecedented, High Counselor Methus admitted. No species has ever turned a hive mind against itself. No species has ever been insane enough to try, Commander, Thusk replied. But insanity appears to be humanity's greatest weapon. The Luminary representative flashed anxious patterns. What if they cannot control what they have unleashed? What if the chaos spreads beyond the swarm? It was a valid concern. Human tactics were becoming increasingly unpredictable. Their strategies violated so many fundamental principles of warfare that some alien military experts were beginning to question whether warfare itself made any sense. But the results spoke for themselves. System after system was being liberated from swarm control. The alien survivors rescued from conquered worlds all told the same story. The swarm had arrived as an unstoppable force, and the humans had turned them into a confused mob. How do they do it? The Kalish ambassador asked for what felt like the 1,000th time. Yang Ho-jin, who had remained on Nexus Prime to advise the council, provided his usual answer. We do not think about what makes sense. We think about what works. But surely, there must be some method to your madness. The method is the madness, Yang Ho-jin replied. Every time we do something that should not work, we prove that should not is just another limitation to be overcome. As he spoke, reports came in of the latest human innovation, the Friendship Protocol. Instead of attacking swarm creatures, some human units were trying to make friends with the individual ones that had been infected with the free will virus. Private Lee Min-jung has successfully convinced a former swarm warrior to defect. Read the latest dispatch. The creature now goes by the name Bob and wants to learn how to play poker. High Counselor Methus rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. They are making friends with the enemy. And it is working, Commander Thesk added with something that sounded suspiciously like laughter. The galaxy was beginning to understand that when humans said, "Hold my drink," they meant, "Prepare to have your understanding of reality fundamentally challenged." And reality, it seemed, was surprisingly flexible when approached with the right combination of courage and... The phrase, "hold my drink," spread across the galaxy faster than light communication. Within a week, every species had their own translation. The Vorthak called it the moment of human madness. The Sketh termed it the warning of chaos. The Luminari simply flashed deep purple whenever they heard it, their color for impending impossible events. Admiral Yoon So-ra stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Her fleet of human ships moved in patterns that gave alien military experts headaches just looking at them. "Captain Oh-bin-na is in position for the gravity well gambit," reported her tactical officer. "Confirmed," Yoon So-ra replied. "Tell her she has permission to be completely insane." 3 light seconds away, Captain Oh-bin-na grinned as she received the message. Her ship, the UES Reckless, was not the largest in the human fleet, but it was definitely the most unpredictable. Her crew had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not survive it. "Engineering, give me everything you have got," Oh-bin-na ordered. "Navigation, plot a course directly into that star." "Ma'am," her navigator said carefully, "that will kill us." "Only if we do it wrong," Oh-bin-na replied cheerfully. "And we are very good at doing impossible things right." The Void Swarm Fleet hung in space around the dying star, feeding on its energy. The creatures had learned to expect conventional attacks, energy weapons, missile barrages, coordinated fleet movements. They were ready for sensible tactics. They were not ready for a human ship to fly directly into the star's gravity well, at maximum speed. Oh-bin-na's plan was simple in concept, insane in execution. By overloading her ship's engines at precisely the right moment and in precisely the right location, she could destabilize the star's gravity field. The resulting gravitational anomaly would create a temporary black hole. 30 seconds to the point of no return, her navigator announced. "Good," Oh-bin-na said. "Start the music." Classical Korean music filled the ship's corridors as the Reckless dove toward the star. The crew sang along, their voices carrying over the increasing noise of stressed hull plating. The Void Swarm creatures noticed the approaching ship and moved to intercept it. They expected it to turn away or attack them directly. Instead, it flew right past them and continued toward the star. "Now," Oh-bin-na whispered. The ship's engines overloaded in a carefully calculated cascade failure. The explosion was precisely timed and positioned to create maximum gravitational disruption. For a moment, the star's gravity well became unstable. Space twisted, reality bent, and a hungry black hole opened its mouth. The Void Swarm Fleet, caught, completely off guard by the impossible maneuver, was pulled into the gravitational anomaly before they could phase out of normal space. Their bioships, designed to absorb energy and matter, found themselves facing something that absorbed everything, including them. Oh-bin-na's ship barely escaped, its hull glowing red-hot from the star's radiation. Half her systems were offline, but her crew was alive and cheering. "This is Captain Oh-bin-na to all ships," she broadcast. "Gravity well gambit successful. Target eliminated. We are going to need a really good mechanic." On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. High Counselor Methus replayed the sequence 3 times before he could speak. "They flew into a star," he said slowly. "On purpose." "And it worked," Commander Thesk added with what sounded like admiration. The entire swarm concentration was eliminated. The luminary representative flashed rapid cycles of confused colors. But the mathematical probability of success was less than 12%. No rational being would attempt such a maneuver. "That," said the Sisketh delegate, "appears to be exactly the point." Meanwhile, on the agricultural world of Series the 7, Sergeant Kim Do was preparing for what the humans called the baited hook operation. The Void Swarm was approaching the planet, drawn by its fusion reactors and communication arrays. The logical response would be to evacuate the colonists and destroy the infrastructure to deny it to the enemy. Kim Do had a different idea. "You want to use us as bait?" asked Mayor Chen Wei, the leader of the main colony. "In a sense, yes," Kim Do replied. "But trust me, we have done this before. When have humans ever fought extragalactic hive minds before?" "We have not," Kim Do admitted. "But we have fought things that seemed impossible to defeat. The key is to make them think they are winning right up until they lose." The plan was typically human in its complexity and simplicity. The colonists would remain in place, going about their normal business. The swarm creatures would land expecting easy prey. Instead, they would find carefully placed antimatter charges hidden throughout the colony. "The timing has to be perfect," Kim Do explained. To his team, "We let them get comfortable, let them start feeding, and then we trigger the charges." "What if they detect the explosives?" asked his demolitions expert. "They will not," Kim Do said confidently, "because we are hiding them inside things they want to consume. Every fusion reactor, every computer core, every communication array has been rigged. They will literally eat their own destruction." The swarm arrived on schedule. Their bioships landed throughout the colony like dark flowers blooming in a garden. The creatures emerged, horrific blends of organic and mechanical parts, driven by a hive mind that had consumed 1,000 civilizations. The colonists ran screaming, exactly as Kim Do had instructed them. The swarm creatures pursued, herding them toward the colony's central square. Everything proceeded according to the invaders' expectations. Until it did not. "Now," Kim Do whispered into his communicator. Every fusion reactor on the planet exploded, simultaneously. But these were not normal explosions. The antimatter charges had been calibrated to create a specific type of energy cascade, one that disrupted the quantum fields the swarm creatures used to phase in and out of normal space. Caught. Mid-phase, the creatures found themselves trapped between dimensions. Their bioships, trying to escape, instead tore themselves apart on the fabric of space-time itself. "Baited hook successful," Kim Do reported. "Colony secure. The bait is asking what happens now." "Now we rebuild," came Admiral Yoon So-ra's voice, over the comm. "And we prepare for the next impossible thing." Across the galaxy, similar reports flooded in. Captain Lee Tay had rammed his ship into a swarm mothership, but not before ejecting his crew in escape pods equipped with delayed activation bombs. The mothership had absorbed the ship as expected, and then exploded from within when the bombs activated. Commander Park Ye-jin had developed a new tactic called aggressive confusion. Her ships would split up, regroup, split again, and regroup, in different formations while broadcasting completely random signals. The swarm hive mind, trying to predict the fleet's movements, eventually overheated its processing centers. In his mobile laboratory, Dr. Cho Min studied captured swarm biomatter with growing excitement. The creatures were incredibly sophisticated, but they had one critical weakness. They could not process truly random information. Their hive mind works by predicting patterns and adapting to them, he explained to Admiral Yoon So-ra over a secure channel. But humans do not follow patterns. We change our minds, we make mistakes, we do things for no good reason. To them, we are like static noise. So our unpredictability is a weapon. Our unpredictability is the weapon. Every time we do something that makes no logical sense, we damage their ability to understand us. And if they cannot understand us, they cannot adapt to us. Back on Nexus Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was reaching new levels of confusion. Reports kept coming in of impossible human victories. Ships that should have been destroyed were reporting successful missions. Tactics that violated every principle of warfare were somehow working. I do not understand, the Kalish ambassador said for the 7th time. Their strategies have no logical foundation. That appears to be the point, Commander Thesk replied. He had been studying human tactics for days now, and a grudging respect was growing in his reptilian mind. They fight like no species we have ever encountered. They fight like madmen, Methus corrected. Yes, Thesk agreed. And it is working. On the main display, another battle report showed a human ship that had defeated a swarm squadron by flying, in a pattern that spelled out an ancient Earth poem in 3-dimensional space. The swarm creatures, trying to understand the significance of the pattern, had become so confused they stopped moving long enough to be destroyed. What kind of beings turn poetry into a weapon? The luminary representative flashed in bewildered colors. High Counselor Methus stood silently for a long moment, watching the tactical displays. Human ships moved across them like living things, never following the same path twice, never making the same decision in the same situation. Perhaps, he said quietly, the kind of beings who can win unwinnable wars. The phrase "hold my drink" had become more than just words. It had become a galactic phenomenon. When humans said it, impossible things happened. When other species heard it, they prepared for their understanding of reality to be challenged. And somewhere in the dark between galaxies, the Void Swarm Queen sensed that her perfect, predictable conquest was becoming something else entirely. Something chaotic. Something human. 3 days passed, and the outer rim burned. The first reports came in scattered fragments. Colony ships sending half-finished distress calls. Mining stations going silent in the middle of routine transmissions. Patrol vessels disappearing without a trace. Park Jin led her squad of human marines through the twisted corridors of what used to be Research Station Alpha 7. The lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on the walls. Her boots crunched on broken glass and something else she did not want to identify. "Sergeant Park," whispered Private Bay Sumi through the comm. "You need to see this." Park Jin followed the voice to what had been the station's main laboratory. What she found there would haunt her dreams for years to come. The alien researchers were still alive. Sort of. Dr. Vethkar, a respected luminary scientist, hung suspended in some kind of organic webbing. Tubes and wires grew from his crystalline body, pulsing with dark energy. His usually bright blue light had turned a sickly green. "Kill me," he whispered when he saw the humans. "Please, before they make me like them." Similar horrors filled the other research pods. Vorthak engineers with mechanical parts grafted to their stone skin. Esketh biologists whose snake-like bodies had been twisted into impossible shapes. All of them were being slowly changed into something else. "What are they?" Baysumi asked, her voice shaking. Park Jin studied the organic technology surrounding the prisoners. It looked alive, like it was growing rather than built. "I do not know. But we are getting everyone out of here." "Negative," came a new voice through their comms. "This is Commander Namsu of the UES Defiant. Do not attempt rescue. The station is compromised." "Ma'am, there are survivors here." "I understand that, Sergeant. But those survivors are not survivors. Anymore, they are being converted into something else. Something that serves our enemy." Park Jin looked at Dr. Vethkar's pleading eyes and made a choice that would define her for the rest of her military career. She raised her weapon and gave the alien scientist the mercy he begged for. On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Nam Sue studied the tactical displays with growing horror. The attack pattern made no sense according to traditional military thinking. The enemy hit the most advanced colonies first, ignored the primitive outposts, and seemed to specifically target areas with high technology. "They are feeding," she realized suddenly. "Ma'am?" her tactical officer asked. "The attack pattern. They are not conquering territory. They are feeding on advanced technology and organized energy signatures. Commander Nam Su pulled up the galactic map and traced the enemy's movements. Every strike targeted colonies with fusion reactors, advanced communication arrays, or sophisticated defensive systems. The more complex the technology, the more attractive the target. "Send this analysis to the Galactic Council immediately," she ordered, "and get me a direct line to Admiral Yun Sora." The Admiral's response came back within minutes. "Understood, Namsu. Continue monitoring. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. We need more data on these things before we can fight them." Meanwhile, in the ornate chambers of the Galactic Council, panic was beginning to set in. High Counselor Methus paced back and forth on his platform, his forearms gesturing wildly as he received one bad report after another. 17 colonies in 3 days, announced the Sketh representative. No survivors, no remains, nothing but empty space where thriving worlds used to be. The luminary delegate flashed anxious yellow colors. "Our harmonic defense networks are useless. These creatures seem to absorb our energy weapons and use them to grow stronger." "What do we know about them?" Methus demanded. A new voice answered, from the back of the hall. Commander Thesk of the Sketh military had just arrived from the front lines. His usually perfect uniform was torn and stained. One of his 6 arms hung useless at his side. "We call them the Void Swarm," Thesk hissed. "They come from outside our galaxy. Their ships phase in and out of normal space. Our weapons pass right through them unless they choose to be solid." "Impossible," scoffed the Kalish ambassador. "Nothing can ignore the laws of physics." Thesk's reptilian eyes fixed on the insect-like alien. "Tell that to my dead crews. Tell that to the 3 battle groups we lost when our plasma cannons fed their bioships instead of destroying them." The hall fell silent. 3 battle groups represented thousands of lives and decades of military resources. "What do they want?" Methus asked quietly. "Everything," Thesk replied. "They consume matter, energy, and information, but they prefer organized systems. The more complex the civilization, the more they seem to hunger for it." A communications officer interrupted the grim discussion. "High Counselor, we are receiving a transmission request from the human embassy." Methus waved dismissively. "We have no time for human theatrics. Sir, it is Ambassador Kang Wu. He says it is urgent. Put him through." Kang Wu's face appeared on the main display. Behind him, the human embassy looked busy but organized. Staff, members moved with purpose, carrying equipment and files. "High Counselor," Kang Wu said formally, "I understand you are facing a crisis." "That is no concern of yours," Methus replied coldly. "Your species was rejected by this council." "Yes, we were, but perhaps that rejection was premature." Several aliens started speaking at once, but Kang Wu continued calmly. "We have ships in the area. We have been studying these creatures for 3 days. We may have information that could help." "And what would you want in return?" Methus asked, suspiciously. "Nothing." The simple answer caught everyone off guard. "Nothing," the Sketh representative repeated. "We do not bargain with lives," Kang Wu explained. "If we can help stop these creatures, we will, whether you accept us into your council or not." Methus considered this. Pride warred with desperation in his ancient features. Around the hall, other delegates whispered among themselves. "What kind of information?" he finally asked. "Tactical data, behavioral analysis, possible weaknesses. And you would share this freely?" "We would." The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Commander Thesk spoke up. "High Counselor, with respect, we have lost 17 colonies in 3 days. If the humans have information that could save lives, perhaps we should listen." Methus nodded, slowly. "Very well, Ambassador. You may advise us." Kang Wu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I appreciate the offer, High Counselor, but I think this situation requires more than advice." "What do you mean?" Kang Wu stood up from his desk and reached for a simple ceramic cup filled with tea. The traditional Korean drink steamed gently in the afternoon light of Nexus Prime. "High Counselor, honored delegates," Kang Wu said quietly. setting the cup down carefully. Hold my drink. The transmission ended. Across the outer rim, human ships began moving with sudden purpose. Admiral Yoon Sora issued new orders from her flagship. Captain Lee Tae changed course toward the heaviest fighting. Commander Nam Soo powered up weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. In the council chamber, several aliens began talking at once, but Commander Thesk silenced them with a sharp hiss. "What did he mean?" asked the Luminary representative. "Hold my drink. Is that some sort of human military code?" Thesk's reptilian features showed something that might have been fear or anticipation. "I do not know," he admitted. "But I suspect we are about to find out." The first human attack came 6 hours later. Captain Oh Bin Na led her ship directly into the largest concentration of Void Swarm forces, broadcasting human music at maximum volume while firing weapons that should not work according to galactic science. The swarm creatures, which had easily adapted to every conventional tactic, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that made no logical sense. The galaxy's education in human unpredictability was about to begin. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with 1,000 different languages. Alien voices mixed together in a sound that would make most humans dizzy. But Kang Wu sat quietly in his simple chair, watching everything with calm eyes. The Galactic Council meeting was about to begin. Today they would vote on whether humans could join their group. Kang Wu did not expect good news. High Counselor Methus stepped onto the speaking platform. The Vorthak leader was tall and gray, with skin that looked like old stone. His forearms moved as he spoke, making grand gestures that impressed the other aliens. "We gather today to discuss the human request," Methus said. His voice carried across the hall without any machines to help it. "These creatures from the small blue planet called Earth want to join our peaceful community." Murmurs rose from the crowd. Most did not sound friendly. "But what do we know of humans?" Methus continued. "They fight wars among themselves. They destroy their own planet. They take risks that would make a sane being run away screaming." A representative from the Sketh species hissed in agreement. The snake-like alien's tongue flicked out as he spoke. "We have watched them for 50 years. They solve problems by hitting them with bigger problems. This is not wisdom." The crystalline Luminary delegate flashed angry red colors across her body. "Their military history shows nothing but violence. They even make entertainment from watching people hurt each other. How can such beings join civilized space?" Kang Wu listened to it all without moving. He had heard these arguments before. He had expected them. What surprised him was how little the aliens actually understood about his species. On the other side of space, Captain Lee Tae stared at his sensor readings with growing worry. The exploration ship Determination had been checking the outer edges of known space for 3 months. What Lee Tae saw on his screen should not exist. "Run the scan again," he told his sensor operator, a young woman named Park Jin. "Sir, I have run it 5 times already," Park Jin said. "The readings are the same each time." Lee Tae rubbed his tired eyes. The energy signatures were massive, bigger than anything in the galactic database, and they were moving toward the colonies, on the outer rim. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," Lee Tae ordered. "Emergency priority." "Sir, the Council is in session today about our membership," his communications officer reminded him. "I do not care if they are crowning a new emperor," Lee Tae snapped. "Send the message." Back in the council hall, the debate continued. More species joined in to speak against humanity. The mushroom-like Sporians worried about human contamination of their pure thoughts. The energy beings called wisps feared that human chaos would disrupt their perfect harmony. "They are children, playing with fire," declared the Kalish ambassador. The 6-legged creature clicked his claws together for emphasis. "Children who will burn down the galaxy if we let them." Kang Wu finally stood up. The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to the human ambassador. "May I speak?" Kang Wu asked politely. Methus nodded, though he did not look happy about it. "You call us children," Kang Wu said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "You say we are too violent, too reckless, Too unpredictable? Perhaps you are right. Surprised murmurs rippled through the crowd. They had expected him to argue. But let me ask you something, Kang Wu continued. When danger comes to your door, when the safe path fails, when all your careful plans fall apart, who do you call? We call upon the wisdom of the ages, Methys replied stiffly. And if wisdom is not enough? The hall stayed silent. You speak of our violence, Kang Wu said, but you do not mention that we stopped fighting each other the moment we learned we were not alone. You speak of our recklessness, but you do not mention the human rescue teams that fly into dying stars to save alien crews. Several aliens shifted. Uncomfortably. They remembered those rescues. You fear our unpredictability, Kang Wu went on, but predictable enemies are easy to defeat. It is the unpredictable ones who survive. At that moment, a communications officer rushed into the hall. The small bug-like creature whispered urgently to High Counselor Methys. The Vorthak leader's stone face grew even more gray. It seems, Methys announced, that the humans wish to interrupt our proceedings with what they claim is an emergency. Message. Put it through, Kang Wu said quietly. This is Captain Li Tae of the UES Determination. The voice crackled over the speakers. We have detected massive unknown energy signatures moving toward the Outer Rim colonies. These readings do not match any known species, I repeat. We have contact with unknown hostile forces. The hall erupted in noise. Aliens shouted questions in a dozen languages. Methys raised his hands for silence. Captain Li Tae, Methys said with clear annoyance, your timing is convenient. How do we know this is not a human trick to gain sympathy? For your membership bid? Li Tae's voice came back cold and professional. High Counselor, I am sending you the full sensor logs. You can verify them with your own equipment. We will examine your so-called evidence after we complete our business here, Methys replied. By then it may be too late. Captain, you forget yourself. The Council has procedures. The transmission cut to static. Then a new voice came through, weak and filled with terror. This is Kepler Station on the Outer Rim. We are under attack. The attackers are not in our database. They are not like anything we have ever seen. They are inside the station now. The colonists are, oh gods, what are they doing to them? Help. Us. Someone help us. The transmission ended in screams. The council hall fell completely silent. Even the constant background hum of the station's life support seemed to pause. Methys cleared his throat. Perhaps this is some sort of misunderstanding. Pirates or a malfunction in their equipment. Try to contact Kepler Station, Kang Wu suggested quietly. They tried. There was no answer. We should send a patrol to investigate, suggested the Sketh representative, though he did not sound eager. Yes, agreed Methys. A small force to determine what happened. But first, we must complete the business at hand. High Counselor, Kang Wu said, standing again. Perhaps we should postpone the vote until... The vote will proceed as planned, Methys interrupted. All in favor of accepting humanity into the Galactic Council? Not a single hand, claw, or tentacle was raised. All opposed? The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every alien in the hall voted against humanity. The motion fails, Methys announced with satisfaction. Humanity's application to join the Galactic Council is rejected. Kang Wu nodded slowly. He had expected this outcome, but it still stung. He gathered his few papers and prepared to leave. Ambassador Kang Wu, Methys called out. Do you have any final words? Kang Wu paused at the exit. He turned back to face the assembly of alien representatives. High Counselor, honored delegates, he said formally. You have made your choice. You believe that careful deliberation and established procedures will keep you safe. You trust in the wisdom of ages and the power of unity. He paused, looking around the hall one more time. When the darkness comes for your worlds, Kang Wu said quietly, when your procedures fail and your wisdom is not enough, when your unity crumbles before an enemy you cannot understand, remember this moment. Remember that you chose protocol over pragmatism. Is that a threat? Methys demanded. No, Kang Wu replied sadly. It is a prediction. The human ambassador left the hall. Behind him, the aliens laughed and chattered about dramatic humans and their tendency toward melodrama. 3 hours later, the patrol sent to check on Kepler Station found nothing but debris and silence. The entire colony was gone, not destroyed, consumed, as if something had eaten it down to the molecular level. The laughter in the council hall stopped.